Welcome back to the podcast. We are here with Simon Severino from StrategySprints.com. And Simon helps business owners in SaaS and services run their company more effectively, which results in sales that soar. So if you are the kind of person that says, I wish that I did less in my business and had others do more of the work, if I need to know my numbers, my metrics, my KPIs, if I need to make better decisions with less risk and more data, then this is the exact call that you need to be on. So Simon, glad to be talking to you.
Hey, Robert, thanks for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here because times are tough, and I hope we can help people navigate those times.
I agree. Times are tough. And you think that there's so many situations in business and in life when the answer is just a little bit of reconfiguration, right? When you feel like you're blocked and you have all this stress and all these struggles, and maybe the solution is not to throw away everything that you've done your whole life and start over. And maybe the solution is not to do something drastic, but just do a little bit of reconfiguring, and that might mean like reconfigure your goals, your schedule, your finances, and sometimes we just need to move the blocks around a little bit and to make things better.
Yeah, this time I think there are a couple of things that we all need to do, and we can move through them. You read the book. Some are there because they are evergreen, and some are very specific to what's happening right now in the markets. Depending on who the audience is, there are a couple of things that are probably quite important for all of us, like what to do with the offer, what to do with the costs, and what to do with how we take decisions.
Yeah, and so going through your book, which is called Strategy Sprints, which is on Amazon, the thing that that stuck with me about it is that it's important to write things down and to have things measured and to have estimates. And just at least in my experience with even knowing myself and knowing people that I've interacted with, so few people don't know their numbers, or they don't know the wrong numbers, or the number is a guess, or they have to do all sorts of lookup and calculations. And I think about those times when I had the most confidence, or I was able to just really make those quick decisions, is when I knew a number like a customer value, or I know my open rate, or when I know the size of my list, and then I can really easily say, oh, well, this, if something didn't work as expected, then that's good or that's bad. And I mean, is that your experience, that so few people don't even know like even a few numbers about their business?
Yes, it's fun that you say it's about writing down things, because yes, I was always writing down things. It helps me thinking, right? And what I learned from all the sciences, if you look how scientists explore territory, they always do it by writing down assumptions. I think an electron is a thing that does this under this circumstance. Then they run an experiment, and if it hits multiple times, then they go, maybe the assumption is right. Let's run another set of experiments. And if it hits again, then they say, ooh, we are onto something. Now we have a theory. But you don't jump directly to a theory, right? It's first is an assumption, then you invalidate it. If you cannot invalidate it, it becomes validated. And after many validations, you say, now I have a theory. You move from a heuristics, sometimes when I do this, this happens, to an algorithm. Every time this activity happens, this is the outcome. So you want to move from heuristics to algorithm. And yes, I'm surprised that not everybody writes down assumptions, because if you don't, then you treat your assumptions as if they were reality. They are not. You cannot take your assumptions to the bank. You shouldn't. You should question your thinking. So write down your thinking so that first you know what you think, and then you test it quickly. We show in the book how to test things in 3 hours with less than $100. And then you know, all right, my assumption is right, or my assumption is not right. And yes, so I use the daily habit, weekly habit, and monthly habit every day, because that's my process of exploring my own reality and the reality around me and the reality of our clients. Otherwise, what do I base my decisions on? Really just on narrative, on feeling? I want to know what's going on. So every day I write down, how did I allocate my time today? What will I delegate tomorrow? It's a little bit of a review. I spent 20 minutes on Instagram. Does the CEO really need to spend time on Instagram? Can I write it down and hand it over? Then the weekly habit. Are we moving in the right direction at the right pace? Give me one marketing number, one sales number, and one operations number of this week. And the whole team will look at them and learn from them so that we know which activities are actually working, which activities are not working. And then the monthly habit of all the things that our clients do right now. What else can they do if they don't work with us? What else can they do? Mike, the intern, does it. They do nothing. They hire a full-time business developer. And then if they go with our competitors, who are the top 3? What makes the difference? Of our 10 features, which are the 2 where we are currently losing, the 2 where we're currently winning? We will cut 15%, 20% costs from the 2 where we're losing, and we will reinvest in the next month immediately in the 2 where we're winning. That's the core operating model of a company that runs on the strategy sprints model. And this is weatherproof. Whatever happens outside, you always learn from your day. You learn from the activities of your whole team every week. So you catch the signals quickly and can adapt. We see sometimes when LinkedIn is changing the algorithm or when Facebook is changing the algorithm, because our dashboard tells us there is a variation. And so if we have 5 weeks in a row, always a plus 0.7% in something, and then there is a minus 0.1%, Michelle on our team says there is a deviation. And then we have a look at that and we say, maybe the algorithm is changing. And then 6 weeks later, you realize, oh, the algorithm changed. But we did not waste a ton of money and a ton of time because we saw it coming. And so when you see it coming, you can react. That's why it's important that you look at a key indicators, and they will be different for you, but pick a few key indicators and really watch them carefully so that you get the weak signals that are really important for you. And those are around your clients, around what your clients need, what your clients do, because this is relevant information for you. You wanna know that early.
This is interesting to think about, and it almost seems like it's like the momentum of keeping documentation, or the momentum of having your data right, so that way you don't ever have to fall into panic mode, or it happens very little. And you know, in our industry, Simon, sometimes you hear the rumors, right? Like, well, Facebook is changing this algorithm, or you say like LinkedIn's changing that algorithm, and people panic so much, right? And you hear rumors for so many months, and every conference you go to, every speaker is mentioning it and making a joke about it. And you even wonder, like, am I panicking about nothing? Or you wonder, is it like a self-fulfilling prophecy? And you just get tired of all the rumors, and you wonder, just like, if everyone's like just being so negative about Facebook, then it's without even me realizing, like, I'm doing less in Facebook. And so it seems like this, just by the simple concept of actually having things written down and doing experiments and having hypotheses and having the KPIs in place, it just prevents the drift and the superstition. And it's interesting that kind of you mentioned something in there about how, like, well, where do your decisions come from? And I mean, they have to come from somewhere. And it's kind of a interesting aha for me as you were saying that, because it's like, well, it might come from a weird superstitious source, and you might not even realize it. And you're thinking like, okay, well, I'm just kind of doing the work. I'm just kind of running my business, and things will work out as they are. But I mean, subconsciously, or whoever you're talking to might influence your decisions. And it's almost, if you don't know your numbers, then the decision is not based on data. It's based on rumors. And so you're almost gambling, or you might as well be just like rolling a pair of dice and saying, if it lands on 6, I'll do this. It's like, there's so much randomness if you just don't do these simple things, including, as you said, also about like managing your time. And so what I like about your book is that, you mentioned about the daily and the weekly and the monthly tasks, and you have some of these like diagrams, right? Where like the daily tasks are just like the everyday to day stuff. And then the weekly is more on the operations. And then the monthly is more on the big picture. And so that's what I like a lot about your book, is that there's the blend of the concepts and the generalities, but then you also might have like a table and you say, here's how I do it. So you can kind of see both sides of it. And that's missing so many times, right? You either see it's too in the weeds, it's too practical, it's too much of like, here's exactly how I do it, or it's too vague. And so we need to know our numbers. And so what is maybe the kind of the newsworthy, or like the most recent kind of trouble aspect of businesses? Like, where are people missing the ball these days besides this whole knowing the numbers and documenting?
Yeah, I think it's timing, like you said, the rumors, when you hear the rumors. So for example, right now, if you look at the newspapers out there, the rumors are that we will soon be in a recession. Now, if you wait for these rumors, the moment something pops up to the surface and it's a rumor, it's almost over. It's almost the past. So if you are an investor, let's say you're buying Apple stocks, Tesla stocks, etc., and you buy now, or you start selling now because you hear the rumor of a possible recession and you start selling now, you're so much too late now in selling. It's already down 60%. So the smart investors, they have their dashboards. They are looking at a few numbers. They were looking at the dollar index. They were looking at the S&P 500. They were looking at their industry, being it tech or commodities or whatever the sector is that they were looking. And they had a few indicators, and they were looking at them every day. And they saw in November that the pattern was breaking. And they started selling in November. Like Jeff Bezos started selling in November. He does not look 170 different KPIs, but a few numbers that are relevant, he checks every day. So he was selling in November. He doesn't wait for the rumors, right? Entrepreneurs don't wait for the rumors, because usually when the rumor comes, it's the end of the curve. It's the end of the cycle. At that point, you are almost better off doing the opposite of what everybody does, because it's probably the beginning of the next cycle, or almost there. So it's timing. And for you, the timing is, first of all, against what your client needs. Is it changing? How much is it changing? So let's go into an example. Right now, whatever business you run, please double check that your offer is clear, crisp, and vital. Clear means everybody can tell their friends, hey, this is what Simon does. He doubles your revenue in 90 days. Can you tell that to a friend? Easy, right? You can tell it to a 10 years old. What does he do? Double revenue in 90 days. So the clear part, right? If you can make it time-bound and tangible and measurable, that's the holy grail. If not, then try at least to make it, to package it, to make it easily tangible. Second thing is make it very, very vital. Because in a recession or in tough times, first thing people cut is the non-vitals. What are the non-vitals? Everything that does not contribute to time, energy, or money. These are the three vital things. Simple. Time, energy, money. So whatever your offer is, we can probably package it around time, energy, money. If not, then you have to work on it until you can say, hey, in 21 days, I can reduce your costs by 15%. In 75 days, I can raise your energy by 50%. I can raise your confidence. I can raise your speed, if you're a runner, by so much percent. So make it vital. Either you help them save time. That's what technology does. So if you have a software, you are probably helping them save time or sleep better or concentrate on what they can do. So make it simple, bring out the value that you create in the offer. And it has to be around the three vitals: time, energy, or money. Because otherwise, you will have a problem in the recession. Otherwise, you are one of those budget parts that get cut first. And you don't want to wait for a recession. Sometimes recessions last for 600 days. You don't want to wait that long.
And every time it seems like every decade there's a recession or some kind of economic problem, and that phrase always comes up from like the Warren Buffett one about like when the tide goes out, you see who's swimming naked, right? And whenever there's some kind of like recession type of situation, the mindset that gets me through is this idea that, well, the weak hands are just being weeded out, right? That all these businesses that they might not even had any business like making money, right? They just kind of were there when everything was good and they lucked into it. But then when the conflict happened, then that was time to actually get serious. And for me, that was more comforting, that it's not like, well, this apocalypse happens every decade. It's more that, well, if things are great, then you can be lucky. But then when there's the more of a struggle, then that's when it's time to say, okay, I've had all this chaos. There's all these things in my business that have been successful, but now it's time to reassess and examine what is working and what's not. And I get that a lot from your speech here, right? From your book and the way that you're speaking. There's a lot of just re-examining and looking at, I mean, like we're saying, the weekly task, the monthly task of saying, well, what is my metric? What is my goal? What are the actions I'm taking? What are the thought-provoking questions to either say, should I double down on this or should I do that differently? And that's just an interesting mindset to have in general, right? Of looking back at your landing page, to use a practical example. And how many times have you looked at a landing page and said, if I were to do that today, I would do it differently? Well, then go and fix it up 5%. Or how many people do you know, Simon, where you go to their opt-in page and you try to sign up and it's broken and they say, oh no, I set it up 2 years ago. I did not re-examine. Or you look at their sales page, you try to buy, you log into your membership site, which you set up 4 years ago, and you say, oh no, I would reconfigure something. So that's just something to consider in general, of saying, what have I already set up and what parts of my business have I not touched, looked at, changed 5 years ago, that if a customer saw it now, maybe I would cringe and I need to maybe not feel bad about it, but go back and fix a few things or at least make a plan so that way everything runs smoothly and I can get ahead of any problems that are coming in the future, right? Economic recession, industry recession, problem with my business, customers, cash flow, employees. You can just re-examine what's there and then try to get ahead of things so that way you have the timing figured out. So if there is an emergency, you don't have 10 emergencies, you just have 1 or 2.
Totally. So if you look at your garden, not every salad gets eaten by the insects, actually. Only the weak salad. The strong, the healthy salad doesn't get eaten. So these are natural cycles, natural repair mechanisms of nature, where what needs to go will go, but the healthy stays. Same thing with all of our companies. In 3 years, some of us will be around, some will not. And now this is the reason why in the 90 days one-to-one coaching, we help them reduce the number of parts that they have in a business, because the fewer parts you have, the fewer the maintenance and the better you can curate actually and maintain the parts. So if you have 170 landing pages, you will probably not curate them all. But if you have just 5, it's much better. If you have just one main offer, like I have only one thing that I sell, it's we double your revenue in 90 days. That's it. And because it is like that, every week I can improve each part a little bit. I improve by 1% that template, by 1% the onboarding process, by 1% in the next week. The upsell process. It's easier for me to have a well-oiled machine. Elon Musk, who is a genius in his thinking, he says the best part is no part. He thinks like an engineer. He knows if you have 10 parts, you have 10 times the amount of stuff that breaks per year. If you have just one part, everything becomes simpler. Your supply chain, the way you build it, the way you assemble it, and the breaking surface is 10 times lower. Stuff will break. And if you have 15 parts of your offer, you will have 15 more problems than if you have just one offer and you give it a little bit of love every week. It will be better and better. You know, I was a consultant, right? Before even running a consulting firm, I was the consultant. So BMW needs a better strategy against Audi. They call us, I go there, we have to solve it, right? And so at some point I realized, oh my God, my job is kind of strange. Every time I have to solve a new problem, because, you know, I cannot go to Coca-Cola with the same tools from BMW. It's so different. And so every time I was reinventing the wheel, and I find it frustrating. So I was like, if I just could have a job where every day I've improved something, and then next week I'm still improving that one thing, because then, you know, over a year, wow, what a wonderful thing I can build. And I guess many professional services feel like that, a longing for, oh my God, imagine, right? Instead of writing one article after one article and writing 1,000 articles, you just write 12 articles and you have a book. It's a very different process. And I was like, how could I do that? How could I do that? And then I realized, wait a moment, pick just one group of people that you are here to serve. Pick just one problem of all the problems that they have. Create one solution for them and keep it simple. And now improve each part of this solution every week. And I was like, my God, that sounds so simple. Maybe it's too easy, but let's try, okay? And so I did exactly that. I just picked one target group. I only help B2B business teams. So agencies, consultancies, B2B software. And then I only help them solve one problem, the double your revenue in 90 days problem. And I only curate those things. Every week I improve this template, the onboarding sequence, one email, one landing page. So it's just a few parts. It's so simple. And of course, if you do this week by week, after years, you have now a well-working program. It's a work of art. And then you get energy back because now people start sending you love letters, you get client testimonials, etc. So you get energy back and you wanna go and improve the landing page and do stuff again. And it's not boring. Many people say, but it's boring if I just do one thing. It's not at all, because you will get energy back. You will get thank yous. You will get economical rewards. You can scale it. You can scale it over the globe. It's not limited because it's simple.
And that way you get traction. Like, I can't remember the exact phrase in your book, but you said, like, instead of having this, you get traction instead.
Yes. And the traction is, you know, for example, Sadhguru, who is my yoga teacher and one of my idols, he's on YouTube every day. He talks and he gets so much energy back from the universe. Everybody, millions of people coming to him. So you might say, oh, what a boring life. He just does yoga and he talks about yoga. How boring. It's not. The world is bringing him energy from everywhere, every day. So he does sleep just 3 hours or 4 hours because that's how much energy the world brings him. He has a party every day. It's a rock and roll life. He looks relaxed, but he's always happy. And it's a rock and roll life. And yeah, something similar happens to all of our clients when they reduce the amount of offers that they have. Like Sani, for example, Sani Abdul-Jabbar, he just sprinted. And I said, okay, Sunny, how is your sprint going? He says, Simon, my sales went through the roof. And I said, what did you do, Sunny? So he's in Los Angeles. He works with tech companies like the Solana team, Web3 teams, like the Solanas and Avalanches of this world. And he's a consultant, right? And he has the developers. And so he had, of course, 17 different things that he was offering, right? You need a developer for this, and you need the front end, and you need the back end, and you need the website, everything. And in his sprint coach asked him to just focus on the one thing. If he thinks back the last 40 clients, which one is his ideal client from those 40? And he said, oh, that Web3 team. Okay, what makes them ideal? And they found out 5 criteria. And then the coach said, all right, every week you are just gonna write on LinkedIn an article about this topic, the 3 things that you need to know in XYZ. So he picked blockchain. And now every week he's writing on LinkedIn the 3 things about blockchain you need to know this week. Super easy, super simple. Everybody can refer to Sunny. Hey, he's the blockchain guy. You're building something on the blockchain, around the blockchain. He's your guy. And so he became easily referable, became very clear what he stands for. Fast forward 90 days, his sales went through the roof. This is what happens when you start simplifying. And that's why Elon Musk can build cars faster than the real car builder, who are actually in Europe, right? And are the people that I was working with for decades. But he can build cars faster and cheaper right now because he's reducing the number of parts. And that makes everything else easier, quicker, cheaper, and less full of errors. So it's very smart. If you can reduce the parts, it is simple, but it will have a huge impact.
Well, wonderful. And, there's so many entrepreneurial stories like that where the solution is to reduce and to simplify. You hear about 80-20 rule. You hear about when Steve Jobs returned to Apple, he drew like a line and a line and said, you guys have 52 products. Let's just make these 4 things. You hear about the Arizona iced tea guy, where you have the can of iced tea and it's 99 cents. And even with inflation, recession, supply chain, he's constantly working on this one problem of how do I get the water cheaper and how do I find like better filtration methods and all these things, just to continually focus on this one problem of a 99-cent can of iced tea. There's the 5-hour energy inventor. He's got millions of dollars, and all he invented was just a little tiny energy shot, and he didn't invent 52 different inventions. It was just this one thing. And so that's it's a lesson that you hear again and again, and it's so fun because it's so simple, but it's also a thing that we all need to focus on too. And so just to make sure I'm understanding, and like to recap a little bit about what you said, we need to reduce the number of landing pages, reduce the number of problems you solve, reduce the types of customers you have, so that way you can become known for one thing, that way you can be referable, as you said. And then there's maybe a little bit of a mindset problem to be solved of how to overcome the boredom, but the solution to that is to connect the work that you're doing with the results and with the feedback loop of energy. And you say, well, it might be boring on the surface to redo my email sequence or fix up my landing page, but if you say, I'm just going to improve it by 1%, and I know that because I know my numbers, I know that will lead to X amount of dollars. Well, of course, I'll go and fix up a headline if I know it means another $10,000 in my pocket. So it seems like there's a path to be taken, and it's a path of being deliberate and being methodical and measuring things and just kind of being calm and kind of cycling and revisiting and say, how can I be the best at what I do? How can I niche down, as they say? How can I get more dialed in? And so a lot of these ideas are easier said than done, right? It's good to have the overview. It's good to have the big picture. But if someone is watching or listening to this podcast and they say, this sounds like a really great business, a really great lifestyle, I'd love to just have one product, one type of customer, one thing that I do again and again. And they say, well, if I need to find that help, I need to take that next step. I need to check out Simon's company, his book, his offer. What's the next step? Where do they go?
We hang out at strategysprints.com. This is also where you can download many of our tools for free. They are open source, strategysprints.com. If you want to go deeper, hear case studies and get literally some blueprints and some checklists that I use every day, it's in the book, Strategy Sprints. And I also share my mistakes and my learnings on YouTube. The channel is called Simon Severino, where I explore new inbound systems, outbound systems, new sales workflows, sales scripts, etc., and share what's not working and what's working, because that's the real entrepreneurial journey. You're always exploring, always improving, and it's fun to hear what's not working and what's working for real entrepreneurs. I think that's where the learning is.
I agree. It's a constant battle, and it's like it's kind of like if you stop getting the healthy information, if you stop listening to the self-improvement, personal development, or business advice, then you become kind of sluggish and fat, and you get out of shape. And who wants that? So in order to stay in shape, in order to keep the supply of motivation and strategy and information and kind of just navigating the chaos of everyday life, then the place to go is Simon Severino on YouTube and strategysprints.com. That way you can find out all sorts of details about Simon and his company. He has a certification program. He has his book, which is very excellent, which you should purchase, strategysprints.com. And as we're wrapping up our conversation here, Simon, do you have any parting words of advice for entrepreneurs out there? Is there some advice that you wish you'd been told 10 years ago, anything like that, just to blow our minds and say, here is the final piece of advice?
Yeah, solve only one bottleneck after the other. So you've probably now, just from listening to this, like 3 ideas of what you could do this week. Don't do all the 3 at once. Pick the one that is your current bottleneck. The bottleneck is the weakest part. If you 10x your business, that's the first part that breaks in your business. So solve only one bottleneck after the other. And if you don't know which one is your current bottleneck, on our website, strategysprints.com, you can find out in 8 minutes.